The entire configuration being designed by the global government, openly announced now. There's no more denial. Those of us could see the dots years ago, decades ago. You laughed at us. Now it's not even dots. They just took the mask right off. And they said, we're coming straight on for humanity. We don't have a choice. We have to fight back in any way we can. And I'm going to ask Major General Stubblebine and Dr. Laibow, from their educated perspective, what we do in that fight. But let's continue, for those that don't know, with some of the worst things, not just the melamine, but the plastics with the estrogen mimicking endocrine disruptors, what the GMO foods are doing, sterilizing, what's being sprayed, the fluoride, the mercury, the arsenic being added by design, not just fluoride, but all added to the water. And where you see this all going as they build up and they mass all of this against us, as they get private armies to protect their own systems, it's clear, as you said, General, they're bringing in something hellish. So both of you have the floor, whatever you think's most important.
Well, let's start with the fact that every bite we take can either add to our health and our vitality, or it can diminish our ability to protect ourselves through our immune system and through our regenerative capacity. I'm a physician. I have practiced drug-free medicine for the best part of 40 years. So I'm very, very aware of what nutrition does.
And you've treated, to interrupt, royalty and heads of state. But so you're a top physician. Go ahead.
And the reason that royalty, heads of state, people from all over the world came to see us in our practice was that when everything else that conventional medicine has to offer has failed, people seek the sensible alternatives. And I am, by the way, a physician who believes that the only place that pharmaceuticals have a reason to exist in medicine is in the emergency room. Beyond that, virtually everything that a pharmaceutical does dangerously, expensively, and with tremendous side effects, everything can be done by natural methods, by frequency medicine, by nutrition, by energy medicine. And the reason I can say that so confidently is that throughout my entire career, I have treated the most difficult patients that anybody can have in their practice, people who were dying or unable to tolerate meds and in terrible trouble. And they came to me, and by and large, they got well. Not just symptom-free, which is all that allopathic medicine has to offer, if it does that well, and usually it doesn't, but truly radiantly and in many cases transcendently well, through giving the body, the heart, the mind, the spirit, what it needs to heal. What it does not need is toxins. If you are eating conventional American food, what we call the standard American diet, or SAD, you are already eating weaponized food. I just published an article in one of our blog spots, which you can get to by going to our main website, healthfreedomusa.org, and then clicking on the second button on the left, which takes you to the Health Freedom blog. I just published an article today on the fact that the food supply already contains food grown from seeds which have been irradiated not to prevent mold or bacteria from growing, not to sterilize them, but to induce wild mutations. Nobody knows what the long-term results of those mutations will be. Yet once a seed has developed a mutation that the seed scientists like, they mix it in the food supply, and you're eating that mutated food. That's different from genetic modification. And if that isn't weaponizing food, then I don't know what is.
And they're open air. And they're open air. Can you speak to this? And then the general wants to comment, pop in. They are open air planting thousands of varieties of X-rayed and gamma-rayed and cross species plant varieties, which are cousins to all these other plants, and it's openly jumping in to all the other crops. That's on record.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they are also openly, the United States Department of Agriculture is in the process, in these last lame duck disastrous days of deregulating everything in the world that the U.S. government can, is in the process of essentially eliminating any controls or regulations on the outdoor growth and therefore the genetic mixing of genetically modified plants
Dear
or
God.
Franken. That means that, for instance, foods that are genetically altered to produce industrial chemicals or pharmaceuticals will be allowed to mix their DNA with everything else, not just other food crops of the same species, but food crops of other species and weeds, and they get into insects, and they get into animals that eat them that we eat. We're talking about food Armageddon. Now, that's not acceptable to me. We're talking about intentionally despoiling the earth. And if anybody doubts that it's intentional, all they need to do is go to your data, Alex, or go to our data on our website, healthfreedomusa.org. We have something called the GMO files in our Health Freedom blog, and there's an abundance of truly horrifying independent science. This is designed to kill. This is designed to maim. This is designed to weaken the immune system, and this is designed to cause infertility. Now, if that's what you want for yourself, then that's fine. Do nothing. Continue to eat processed food. Continue to be a person with a slave mentality and be amused by the deceit of the mainstream media.
Just to add a question here to both. Sure. I mean, just to add a question to both of you. I've had Nobel Prize winning geneticists on. I've had top scientists. I mean, these are people that were running, multi-billion-dollar companies, and they'll talk about how if you change one gene in a rat or one gene in a tomato or one gene in a pig, you get the change you want, but it randomly changes thousands of other things. And they admit that the German studies killing the honeybees with just one form of GMO corn that has a pesticide grow naturally in it so other bugs won't eat it, but the honeybees will. Then they feed us those pesticides that are secreted in the corn naturally, as you know, but for audience listening, they talk about global warming and climate change and world taxes. That's a red herring to divert everybody off of all the genetic manipulation of the very biosphere of the planet. I mean, when you say Armageddon, you're not kidding. Already most of the oaks
I'm not kidding.
Already most of the live oaks are dying in Texas. The bees are all dying. There's hardly any birds. Everything's dying. Go ahead.
I wouldn't call it Armageddon. I would say that there's a war. I mean, this is a war that we're in. And as a war, you must take action. You cannot sit back and not do anything unless you want to be a slave or dead.
Yeah, well, they're not even wanting to enslave us.
Choose slave or dead.
Well, I think that in previous wars, the idea was to capture the population and use it for your own purposes. This war...
But they were called slaves. They were called serfs.
You're right.
They were called serfs.
They were called serfs.
This is genocide, though.
This war is a genocidal war. There will be a few serfs, but with mechanized labor-saving devices, with machines, with cyborgs, we don't need very many serfs. What they are going to want to do, and we were told this by a head of state whom we were treating in our practice. I mentioned this on the radio a couple of days ago with you, Alex. This woman is a head of state, and she said that she had been raised to believe that the useless eaters of the earth, that's us, our children, our friends, our family, our loved ones, were consuming that's the master classes, non-renewable resources. And I said, and therefore they had to be eliminated, and the time was coming when that would finally be accomplished. This was in 2002. I believe that we are now at that next phase, and the tools have been put in place. The fear is being marshaled, managed, and very much manipulated to quell the populace, and the genocidal weaponization of food, of vaccines, of medicines has all been put in place to enact this final cleansing so that we do not use up their non-renewable resources.
Let me stop you there. Then people say, well, they're destroying the Earth's biosphere in the name of saving it, but they say, you know, what you read earlier is what the head of Sun Microsystems and others have said, the elite plan to kill the majority of us and then have a small group with this whole technological system. This is an official UN plan, and I want the general to comment on it after you do, but my question here, that's why they're creating all the governmental seed banks, the ARCs, because they plan to release all these plagues, then, quote, manage it, claiming they're fighting it, use that as the pretext to basically exterminate the majority of us, and then they think they're going to put the genie back in the bottle. But the geneticists and the engineers I talk to, they say it probably can't be put back in. So at the final equation, they are completely insane, though they are intelligently insane, with kind of a dark logic, or general, what would you call that?